All right, let's talk about acing your next job interview. And I mean really acing it. We're going to skip all the common tips you've heard a million times. Today, we are diving deep into the actual strategies that make the top candidates stand out from the crowd.
You know that feeling, right? That knot of anxiety in your stomach before a big interview. It feels like this huge test you can never be fully prepared for. But what if I told you the best candidates aren't even treating it like a test? They're playing a totally different game.
So this is our source for today's explainer. And look, it's way more than just a simple checklist. It's a full-on strategic playbook. What we're going to do is break these 11 points down into a super practical 3-phase game plan that you can actually use to nail your next interview.
First things first, Phase 1, the preparation playbook. Because honestly, the real work, the stuff that builds that unshakable confidence, it happens long before you ever walk into that room or hop on that video call.
This right here, this is the single most important mindset shift. Winning the job isn't about pulling a perfect answer out of thin air. No way. It's about building such a solid foundation of prep that the interview just becomes a conversation where you confirm what they already hope is true, that you're the person they need.
So how do we make all that prep work manageable? Well, we can chunk it down into 3 key pillars. It all starts with deep research, then you move on to crafting your proof, and you finish by rehearsing your delivery. Let's get into each one.
First up, research. And listen, I'm not talking about just glancing at their About Us page for 5 minutes. Top candidates are like detectives. They're not just trying to understand the job title, they're trying to figure out the problem that made the company create the job in the first place. You know, are they losing market share to a competitor? Is their internal software a total mess? Those are their pain points, and finding them is how you position yourself as the aspirant to their headache.
Okay, so once you know their problems, you absolutely have to have proof that you can solve them. It's just not enough to say, oh, I'm a great team player. You need a story. Something like, in my last role, that's your situation, our customer retention was lagging. That's the task. So I spearheaded a new feedback system. That's the action, which boosted retention by 15% in just 6 months. And boom, there's your result. That's hard evidence, and that's the STAR method working its magic. And finally, rehearsal. Now, the goal here is not to memorize a script. In fact, that's probably the worst thing you could do. It just makes you sound robotic. The real point is to practice telling your stories out loud, so they just roll off the tongue naturally. Record yourself on your phone. Do you sound confident? Are you clear? This is all about building the muscle memory you need to just be present and have a real conversation when it actually counts. All of that prep leads us right here to Phase 2, the main event. This is showtime. This is where all that hard work you did behind the scenes really pays off.
This slide is so important because it gets to the heart of what happens during the interview. See, a typical candidate treats it like an oral exam. They're just trying to get the right answer. But a top candidate, they see it as a collaborative, strategic conversation. They aren't just rattling off their skills, they're actively connecting those skills to the company's real-world problems and building a genuine rapport.
You can think about the interview itself as having a narrative structure. It's not just a random Q&A. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have to open with confidence, align your career story with their needs in the middle, and then you've got to close even stronger.
So how do you control that narrative? Well, you start with a crisp, 90-second story of your past, present, and future. Basically, why your whole career path has led you straight to them. And throughout the chat, you're doing more than just listing skills. You're revealing how you think. And you wrap it all up with a couple of really insightful questions that show you're thinking about their long-term success, not just about getting the job. And that brings us to the final, and I've got to say, the most overlooked phase. You did the prep, you crushed the interview, but you are not done yet. It's time for Phase 3, sealing the deal.
The follow-up is your final performance. Sending a personalized thank you note within 24 hours, that's non-negotiable. It shows you're professional and genuinely interested. But here's the pro move. Reference a specific, interesting moment from your conversation. It shows you were paying attention, and it makes you way more memorable. So when we put all these pieces together, the deep prep, the conversational strategy, that final follow-up, what's the one winning idea that ties it all together? It's this. This is the whole philosophy in a nutshell. Stop thinking of yourself as just another person applying for a job. Start seeing yourself as the solution to a problem that they have. Every bit of research you do, every story you tell, every question you ask, it should all be driving home one single point. You are the answer they've been searching for. So as you get ready for that next opportunity, don't just ask yourself what the job is. Ask yourself this: what problem was I hired to solve?
If you frame your entire approach around that one powerful question, you won't just change how you interview. You might just change the entire outcome.